Well, as we would expect on such an occasion, Palin and Biden each made a number of claims, and it's time to call in the Truth Squad as a result. Joshua Levs is with me now to examine the validity of or lack thereof, because in actual fact, Sarah Palin said herself last night, we're doing a little back and forth here, and tomorrow they're going to be analysing what we said. Yeah. So a lot of issues came up.
I appreciated when she said that, didn't you?
She did.
Yeah.
Yes. Enter Joshua.
Exactly, because here I am, because we got to make sure they get the facts instead of all this spin. There sure was plenty of it last night. And one of the things we're going to start off with today is one of these issues that came up a lot last night, and that is the so-called surge, the increase of troops in Iraq. The Bush administration calls that the surge. Now, it has been credited in part for a serious reduction in violence in the country. Last night, Governor Palin and Senator Biden got into a dispute over whether that same idea would work in Afghanistan. Let's take a look.
Our commanding general in Afghanistan said the surge principle in Iraq will not work in Afghanistan.
I'll tell you, when a lot of us saw that, we were surprised because it turned out he had just said that, this commanding general. Now, Governor Palin said it was her understanding the commanding general actually believes a similar principle could work in Afghanistan. This is a big question, because if that succeeded in Iraq, do people want to try that in Afghanistan? Well, we checked the record and found that General David McKiernan, who is the top U.S. general in Afghanistan, actually did say there should be no Iraq-style surge of forces for Afghanistan, that it would not end the conflict there. So Biden's characterization of his remarks was accurate. Meanwhile, Governor Palin said this about the surge.
You guys oppose the surge. The surge works. Barack Obama still can't admit the surge works.
So, is that true? Well, here's the deal. Barack Obama did originally say he did not think the surge would work. In fact, we have a quote from him here. This was back in 2007 when President Bush announced the plan. Obama said, quote, "I am not persuaded that 20,000 additional troops in Iraq is going to solve the sectarian violence there. In fact," he went on to say, "I think it will do the reverse." Well, ultimately, it did not. More recently, he has accredited the surge for helping reduce violence. So he does now admit that it worked in a military sense, Rosemary. And there's still dispute over whether it's given them enough of a reprise to get some of these issues dealt with that are, more of a domestic issues inside, like political issues inside.
Okay, so the score so far, Biden accurate, Palin not.
There you go, that's fair, yes.
So what about the economy too? Right. What were some of the issues that came out on that?
Because that is issue number one for Americans, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people really care about now. No longer is the Iraq war the big issue. So
that's right.
What was the where was the truth thermometer?
Okay, the truthometer. We need one of those. See, now that you said that, I'm going to request that as soon as we're
off. You are one
off.
of those, aren't you? Walking, talking.
Can I use my hand for that? So here's the deal. She's right. I mean, this is obviously the biggest issue for Americans, and we're taking a look at a couple of those assertions. First, Biden said, Americans, watch out. Today it's the banks. Tomorrow it could be your health care that's falling apart.
John recently wrote an article in a major magazine saying that he wants to do for the healthcare industry, deregulate it and let the free market move like he did for the banking industry.
Well, that would be a big deal in this environment. When you've seen what happens with banks, does he want to do the same thing to the healthcare industry? Well, let's look at what John McCain did recently write in this magazine called Contingencies. I think we have this here. He says, opening up the health insurance market to more vigorous nationwide competition, as we've done over the last decade in banking, those are the key words, would provide more choices of innovative products, less burdened by the worst excesses of state-based regulation. Let me emphasize, just boil it down for you, what he's saying there. What McCain wants is one specific type of deregulation for healthcare. He wants to let people buy plans across state lines. So if you live in the state of California and you like a plan in New York, you could buy that. But he's not calling for all the same deregulations that the banking industry experienced. So at the Truth Squad, we ruled that Biden's statement misleading. Now, sticking on issue number one for a minute, let's take a look at this from Governor Palin.
Barack had 94 opportunities to side on the people's side and reduce taxes, and 94 times he voted to increase taxes or not support a tax reduction. 94 times.
Not exactly. Here's the deal. This is a nonpartisan group that operates a website called factcheck.org, and they pieced through all those 94 votes and broke them down. A lot of those votes would raise taxes for some wealthy people while lowering taxes for a lot of other people. Also, the 94 includes the same multiple votes on one measure and sometimes on these general huge budget measures that in and of themselves those votes wouldn't actually make much of a difference. So there's a way that they could technically back up the 94 figure, but Rosemary, we also ruled that one misleading.